Welcome to the Health by Haven podcast. I'm your host, Haven Quinlan. If you're a multi-passionate wellness enthusiast, then you're in the right place. I'm obsessed with learning as much as I can about the wellness world, and I want to share that with you. Each episode will dive into various aspects of health and wellness through inspiring and informative guest interviews with some solo episodes thrown in. Tune in for all things health, and let's have some fun, shall we? Feeling overwhelmed, exhausted, or out of balance despite doing all the right things? Foundation of Stone Pediatric and Perinatal Family Chiropractic in Knoxville, Tennessee focuses on nervous system-based care for women, moms-to-be, and families. Learn more at tnkidschiro.com. Georgia Thompson Perkins is a holistic nutritionist, health coach, and founder of Goodness with G. She was first on the Health by Haven podcast in season 1, episode 11, where she shares all about nutrition and healthy living. Today, she's back on the show as a mom of a 14-month-old with a baby on the way. In the episode, we chat all things pregnancy, postpartum, and motherhood. Georgia shares her perspective on realistic wellness, her favorite non-toxic products, nutrition guidance during pregnancy, healthy cooking for her family, her identity and perspective shifts with motherhood, real talk on body image, the power of community, the importance of movement during pregnancy, and more. It always feels like a catch up with the bestie when I have the privilege to chat with Georgia, so I hope you feel part of the girl gang today and that you learn how to support yourself, your friends, and your littles during pregnancy and motherhood. Georgia, thank you so much for joining us again on the Health by Haven podcast. If you can believe it, I went back and looked to see when was the first time you came on. It was episode 11. I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, not that I'm an expert now, but just to think back, how much has changed in both of our lives over the years is wild. And I am so thrilled to have you back on the show today.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for having me. Well, and I was going to ask you when that was. So that was episode 11, but 2 years ago?
Yeah, it was almost 2 full years ago because it was summer of 2024. And so I think when we talked, you hadn't even announced your pregnancy yet. Maybe you were pregnant, but I don't think it was public knowledge yet for your first baby.
Which is crazy. I know. I feel like that feels like ages ago, but also 2 seconds ago. It's crazy. I mean, and these two pregnancies have been relatively close, obviously, but it's they kind of blur into one another. You know what I mean? It was was that last time or something? You just lose track, it loses semblance of time. But I know it's amazing how much has happened in 2 years for both of us, for sure.
Yeah. Moves and children and moves to come on your end. Lots going on.
Lots going on.
So for people who haven't listened to that episode or maybe who don't follow you on social, which by the way, you should go follow her and you should go listen to the original episode. But can you give us a brief little all about you for people who haven't heard of you yet?
Yes. So my name is Georgia, of course. Goodness with G is my Instagram brand, I guess you could say, website, blog, etc. And I'm, like you said, now a new-ish mom. I have at this point in time, a 14-month-old, and I'm pregnant again with my second. So I feel like that's kind of a new wrinkle in my, I guess you could say, brand. But I am also a holistic nutritionist and an integrative nutrition health coach. So I do a lot of, healthy recipes and, kind of a holistic, realistic approach to wellness. And prior to having babies, which I'm hopeful I can get back into at some point when my schedule is a little less wonky, with coaching one-on-one, health coaching, really focusing on both nutrition and just a general more broader lifestyle approach, which I really love. And I feel like that is kind of what translates into my social media as well. So I still like to obviously connect with people there and provide helpful tips that and support like I would with my coaching clients online. But right now we're taking a little pause from coaching in addition to that with baby schedules. So
you kind of have a lot going on.
There's a lot happening at the moment, but I would love to get back to taking on some clients, but it's a little challenging at the moment with just very young babies.
Oh my gosh, I cannot even imagine. I tell people all the time who are like new moms, like, I don't know how you do it because I feel like I can barely keep like myself and my dog alive.
I understand. Somehow your capacity really does increase, but you also just you do have a lot less time and you have to be much more strategic. And I think you and I were just chatting about this, but we're kind of heading into a moving closer back closer to family because I think everyone's like, oh, it takes a village, and it's so true. And I think if you want to have a little bit of a break here and there and or have some time to prioritize work and other things too. It's even more essential to have just some help. And for us, we just really wanted that to be from family and be closer to family and have that kind of support too. So yeah, it's a challenge. It's a challenging thing to navigate, but we are figuring it out as well. I think with one baby, I kind of was able to make it work to the best of my ability. But the older he gets, the more just on the go and nonstop he becomes. And then also having a second, I'm like, all right, we need to make some changes. I need more help.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely. And you're right. That is the thing you hear over and over again. It's like it takes a village, lean on the people who are around you, all
yeah.
of that, which is going to be so great for you to be near family. But what did that look like for you? Like, you've only been in Florida a few years. How did you find community? And then again, like, did that shift when you became a mom? Like, did you find other moms around? What did that look like?
Yeah. That's a great question. So yeah, we moved here a little over 3 years ago for my husband's job, and we've loved it here. It's a very bittersweet move because we're like we really enjoy our life here, but we just don't have a lot of family support and whatnot around. So alas, but we've made a really great community of friends. A lot of our neighbors, and we've lived in like a really cute neighborhood, a lot of families, and so we've become very friendly with a lot of our neighbors, many of whom have kids and like
Hmm.
around the same age, which has been really nice. So circumstantially, I feel like I've just kind of connected with a lot of moms, kind of just because a lot of our friends have been in a similar-ish stage, which has been really nice. So that's been
Yeah.
definitely a great source of just support and help for sure. But I think more than anything, I think it has definitely, I don't say I haven't bonded is the right word, but made my husband and me rely on each other even more. And I've been very blessed that his work is so much flexible that he can be home a good amount and working from here and kind of give me some helpful or extra set of
Yeah.
hands a good amount, which is not the case for a lot of people. He doesn't have to be, in an office from 8 to 5 every single day. So I'm lucky in that regard that I get a little bit of extra help and support from that direction. But I think, yeah, I think we are still craving a bit more of community and from family and my sister and those
Hmm.
kinds of people. It just, you realize, I think, how important it is to have that support around. It's just different. You would ask, I think, family members to do things that you wouldn't necessarily always ask friends, especially newer friends,
Yeah.
even though we adore our friends here. They're so lovely, but they have their own babies and their own lives and jobs and things like that. And it's not the same of like, oh no, I gotta go, in a pinch, you could totally rely on someone. But I think more than anything, I know that I would be more probably likely to ask like my sister or my mom to do
Yeah.
something inconvenient than I would a friend. So that's, I think, in
Right.
a lot of baby stuff is just inconvenient. So I
Yeah.
think that is definitely something we're excited to have more of. So I think in our kind of personal life, I think definitely finding like other moms around the same area, moms with kids around ish the same age, and really like relying on your spouse has been probably our main source of support here. But um, I think also just from a business perspective, not to make it all about like work per se, but I think it has definitely encouraged me to take on more help with like my work because I have so much
Hmm.
less bandwidth, which for so long I was one of those people that was like, I'm going to do it all myself. Like and with kind of what I do it is sort of like a solo journey in a lot of ways. I'm running my social media stuff, your blog, coaching, all that I was doing completely by myself.
Hmm.
Um, and for a long time, I was able to make that work. But once you have so much less time to do all the things,
Hmm.
you kind of realize, okay, maybe I do want to bring on a little bit of help. So I did end up taking on like a management agency to help me with like brand partnerships and things
Oh,
like that,
yeah.
which has been life-changing. And more than anything, just to have some support and people to like bounce ideas off of and kind of help with some
Hmm.
like nitty-gritty back end stuff a little bit, that's been really, really nice. So for someone like me who resisted, I think, help and support for a long time from a work perspective, it has
Yeah.
definitely encouraged me to to kind of relinquish some control and let go,
Mhm.
which has been actually incredibly helpful for my mental health, if nothing else,
Yeah, absolutely. Where you don't feel like you have like all of the balls in the air by yourself all the time.
Totally. Yeah. Just someone else you feel like, okay, I'm not doing this completely alone.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I know. Cause like you can feel like you're like screaming into the void sometimes or like
Totally.
like drowning by yourself.
Yeah.
So of
So that's been
course.
helpful. I recommend anyone who's like working for themselves to take on at least some help. It doesn't have to be like a full-time employee or something like that, but just someone who can take some things off your plate that you really don't have time for anymore, I think is a game changer.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and let's rewind a little bit because it's obviously been, 2 years since you've been on the show now and pre-babies. And so I want to hear a little bit, like kind of step by step. Maybe somebody's listening, they're like thinking about having a child or they're like new in their pregnancy
Sure.
and they're looking for like a friend figure who can relate to the different phases and the different changes in your life. Maybe like walk us through a little bit what that was like for you the first time when you were pregnant, going through all your different trimesters, and then like has it been the same or different time too?
Yeah. Oh, again, having them so close back to back, I'm like, they all, in some ways, it's like sort of bled into to one
Yeah.
another mentally because I think just your brain is also just tired between
Yeah.
with having babies and all the things too. Time kind of flies. But to answer your question, the two pregnancies have been relatively similar. I think the biggest difference, I mean, like physically symptoms, things like that, which I'm happy
Hmm.
to get more into. But the first time around, I think everything is so obviously so new and so unknown. And you worry so much more
Hmm.
about like every little ache and pain and appointment and thing, and rightfully so. It's brand new and
Yeah.
it's a nerve-wracking process. But I think this time around, physically, like symptom-wise, like I said, it's pretty similar, honestly, which
Hmm.
I've been very lucky to have had two, quote, pretty easy pregnancies. I mean, pregnancy is never an easy journey.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on. But I've not been super ill. I know a lot of people really, really suffer and struggle. So
Yeah.
I'm always like, I cannot complain because I just know that it can really be tough. And
Hmm.
everyone really has a very different journey, which is kind of fascinating. But the second time around, I think, again, physically, I feel pretty similar, I'd say.
Hmm.
But I think mentally, it's just so different. I think on one hand, you are so much more distracted with another child,
Yeah.
which in some ways is actually a beautiful thing because you just genuinely don't have the bandwidth and like to hyperfixate on every little thing, which is kind of healthy. It sort of
Yeah.
allows you to have a really maybe positive distraction in that way. And you're also just a lot busier. You've got someone else needing you constantly, and so you're very distracted.
Hmm.
Um, but on the other hand, I think again, it's not so new. You've done this before. You kind of know that whatever phase you're in, whatever aches and pains are happening are temporary, and you obviously know what to anticipate with just like the different appointments and things like that. So I think it's a lot more. I see it's actually been so much easier this time around because
Hmm.
you know what you're getting yourself into. You've been through the whole journey before. And I think I'd say the same thing. I've not had this child yet, so follow up here in a few months. But yeah, I think postpartum would be a very similar thing. It's not that it's easy, it's just that it's not all so shocking. You're not like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
what's happening? How long does this last? Like, is this
Yeah.
forever? You have a bit more perspective of like, okay, even these hard moments are temporary. So in
Yeah.
a lot of ways, I think, the second time around or however many subsequent times is a lot easier. That first time is so special and so magical in a lot of ways, of course, but it's sort of a blessing and a curse that like your main focus is pregnancy. Um,
Absolutely.
and I think I did so much research my first time around, and which
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for, just, and understanding how to nourish your body properly and asking questions about all these different things, and just, researching all the different decisions you have to make and blah, 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 which was really good. But this time it's been so nice I like don't have to do any of that because I feel like
Yeah.
I just did it. And I
Right.
don't worry nearly as much because you kind of get back into the groove of, you know, doing certain habits and things like that. Whereas the first time it's just like it's much more consuming the first time around. Um,
Yeah.
so hopefully it's a little hope for anyone who's like, I'm overwhelmed by pregnancy. It does get easier because the first time is the first time of anything. It's overwhelming for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good perspective to always think about things like in phases. Like it's not,
Totally.
nothing is forever. Like whether or not you're talking about
Yes.
pregnancy, it's really easy to like spiral, get overwhelmed by
Yeah,
things. And then knowing like, okay, like this is just a phase, this will pass.
totally. I think that's so true. I think that, it's so easy to be very consumed by like whatever phase of pregnancy you're in. And there are a lot of changes, like bodily changes and all these different things. And it really is so temporary. I think now, like having been through a pregnancy, been through postpartum, and all of a sudden you look back, you're like, I remember being however many months postpartum, and you're like, I can't even almost remember being pregnant. Like it feels like forever ago. Like, what was that like? And when you're in it, it's like, feels like it's never ending. But I think, yeah, it is definitely a trip, but it is a very good lesson in just like riding the waves of things and like kind of just letting go because it's not, things really do not last forever. It feels that way when you're in it, but then all of a sudden you're kind of like wishing you had that back.
Yeah.
Months go by and you're like, oh, I kind of miss being pregnant. So it's kind of funny how we forget some of those hard parts too.
Yeah. And your brain romanticizes, all the things in
Totally.
the past.
Totally. Ugh.
Okay, so I'm sure as a holistic nutritionist and a health coach, people are asking you all the time, like how to best fuel their bodies during pregnancy and postpartum. So obviously, talk to your doctor, medical advice, disclaimer,
Yes,
blah, blah,
of
blah.
course, always.
But for you personally, or like if you had a friend asking you, what's worked for you? Like what would you suggest for people? What does that kind of look like through each phase? Because I know
Yeah.
obviously, especially first trimester, you hear people being like, all I can choke down is like white bread. So,
Totally. I think, when it comes to whether it's pregnancy or postpartum, like you said, it's similar to, I think, how I would approach like encouraging people to support their fertility prior to pregnancy. Like the kinds of foods and the kinds of things we want to be focusing on is pretty much consistent throughout like the preconception period, pregnancy and postpartum to a certain extent. Which I think people are at like looking for this like magical diet when really it's just like the kind of foods we probably should be eating all
yeah.
the time. You know what I mean? But I think I personally, think there's a lot to be said for focusing on like really just high quality foods, high quality proteins, a lot of like meats, dairy can be really, really nourishing for fertility and, throughout pregnancy and things like that. Obviously, a lot of like, very colorful fruits and veggies, limiting your processed food, all that kind of stuff. It's more important, I think, during this period than ever. It's always important. It's kind of coming back to the basics of how we want to
Hmm.
nourish our body. It's, again, there's no like one like pregnancy diet, but I think it's
Yeah.
really just like getting back to things we know we should be doing.
Yeah.
But I do, of course, try to, again, focus on things like high quality proteins, fruits, veggies, etc. I definitely feel like there's a big focus on things like eggs. I
Mm.
mean, they're like the true, which seems so simple, but like,
Yeah.
people are big on eggs for like the choline during pregnancy, but they're really good for just fertility health prior to pregnancy too. Things that are high like in omega-3s, like fatty fishes, things like that.
Hmm.
So again, kind of just like your, I don't want to say basics, but kind of, it's like limiting processed food,
Yeah.
eating real nourishing whole foods. It's kind of amazing how much it's good for all different phases of pre-pregnancy, during, and after. I think postpartum is also one that people kind of forget about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of focus on like supporting fertility and throughout pregnancy, which there should be for good reason. But
Mhm.
some of postpartum kind of gets like lost in the shuffle because I think people kind of, I don't say forget, but it's like, okay, baby's here. Like mom's health becomes like a second priority. Whereas when you have the baby, when you're pregnant, you feel like you're nourishing this both of
Right.
you. And so it's almost, it's easy to forget about yourself, I think, when you're so hyper fixated on baby. So I think that is an
Hmm.
area where I wish that there was a lot more, and there is a lot of great, support out there with people, sharing postpartum nutrition and things like that. But I think that's an area where I'm like, okay, we can't forget that one, you're so depleted after
Yeah.
you have a baby. Your nutrient stores are so incredibly low, and you're just not obviously not sleeping, and you're so just your hormones are on an absolute wild roller coaster, and especially if you're breastfeeding, things like that. There's a lot of demands when we think, yes, there are a lot of demands during pregnancy, but the postpartum demands are perhaps even more significant,
Hmm.
which is kind of amazing. So I think that's an area where I wish that people maybe came back to these staples of like how are we really nourishing ourselves postpartum
Hmm.
to have just a more pleasant postpartum experience and like nourish yourself so that you can be present for your child as much as
Yeah.
possible. But yeah, I think those are some things I definitely, from a nutrition
Hmm.
standpoint, really bringing it back to the basics, which I know is maybe not a very like fun and sexy response, but
No, but I agree. I mean, well, and like, not that I have experience in this, but like, I think that's why I relate with you and your content so much is like, I feel like we're two peas in a pod as far as let's not overcomplicate nutrition
totally.
or healthy
Yeah,
living. Like, I think you're right. Everyone wants like prescribe me this like perfect diet or this magic pill or whatever. And really, when you like break it down, it's like fairly simple. It's like
totally.
eat the real foods from the earth
Yep.
and like you're gonna feel better.
I agree completely. And I get, like you said earlier, it can be extra challenging when you are, especially in that first trimester for a lot of
Yeah.
people when like foods are not maybe as appetizing and
Yeah.
especially for the people that feel really sick. At the end of the day, I think it also requires a good amount of just like giving yourself some grace because
Yeah.
you are not going to be perfect or quote unquote or have this like perfect diet all throughout your pregnancy. You also need to like live your life and sometimes that means if you're struggling your first trimester, you literally get in any calories that you can. And again, kind of bringing it full circle to what you were saying earlier is that's also a phase. Like that's not going to last
Hmm.
forever. You will be able to eat foods again. Like it's okay if you ate crackers and bread for a couple of weeks or whatever, like it's all good. But that being said, is I think, your baby is getting so much of that good stuff from your hopefully high quality prenatals and things like that you're taking. And I think, you're as you're building a baby and breastfeeding too, like you're giving your baby so many nutrients from your own like stores of minerals and vitamins and things like that, which is kind of crazy and amazing. But that's why you have to replenish properly because then
Yeah.
you, as the mom, end up feeling really depleted. And that's why I think and I'm not an expert in this by any means, but there are some kind of like crazy studies that show that, um, you know, things like morning sickness or just different symptoms throughout pregnancy are because your stores of, whatever minerals or things like that are being depleted because your baby is basically taking them from your stores because maybe it's
Yeah.
not getting the proper amount of magnesium or whatever it is from the food that you're eating. So it's taking that from your body so that
Mm.
the baby's nourished, but then you feel really exhausted or you have a lot of cramping or things like leg cramps or things like that. So it's like, it's very important to make sure that you're replenishing yourself so that your baby has those nutrients, but that you're also actually mitigating some of those pregnancy symptoms through your diet, through extra supplementation, which is why I'm all about, to your point, the basics and not
Yeah.
overcomplicating things. But I also think, especially during pregnancy, there is a great argument for like proper supplementation in addition
Absolutely.
to prioritizing diet because it's hard to get it all in through your diet alone, especially when you're struggling to
Yeah.
consume
Yeah.
enough stuff, enough food, and when things don't, taste very good. So I'm all about like taking a really high quality prenatal, and in addition to some other things I take as well, so that it kind of covers all your bases, and that you're again supporting both baby and you're replenishing you, so that
Mm.
you feel better throughout pregnancy. And um, I've I've really noticed, I think, how important that is through both pregnancies of just keeping really consistent with a good high quality supplement routine, in addition to obviously really trying to prioritize nutrition as well.
Yeah. And it's a lot, especially, like you said, if you have a little toddler running around too, to like remember all of
Totally.
it.
Yeah. And now to have time to like cook as much and
Yeah.
whatnot. It's even the first time around, I feel like I could really prioritize like home cooking a ton. And we do a lot
Hmm.
of that now too, but you just don't have as much time to like come up with creative meals every moment of every
Yeah.
day. Because I'm like, I'm just trying to like get through the day a
Oh
lot
my
of the time.
gosh.
So yeah, you have to definitely requires a good amount of grace too. And like you got to do the best you can
Yeah.
in all
Yeah.
regards.
Let's pause for a moment, especially if you're in the postpartum season or getting ready for it. After birth, so much of the focus shifts to the baby, and it can be easy for your own care to fall to the bottom of the list. That's why I love the postpartum support package from Avoda Massage Therapy. It's built around the idea that you deserve support too. This package includes two 75-minute in-home visits so you don't have to pack up yourself or your newborn to get care. You'll also receive two postpartum massage sessions designed to help your body rest, recover, and gently release tension from pregnancy and birth. Avoda also includes a castor oil pack and a reusable heated water bottle, so you have simple, supportive tools to use between sessions when your body needs a little extra warmth and care. The full package is available for $6.80, offering consistent, thoughtful support during a really tender time. If that kind of postpartum care sounds like something you'd appreciate, you can learn more about the postpartum support package at avodamassagetherapy.com. For sure. I want to get back to the meals later, but before that, what has movement looked like for you? And like, I know from following along, but for people listening, like, what does that look like for you throughout different phases of pregnancy and then postpartum as well, getting back into things?
Yeah. I really, I mean, there's two programs I have followed. I mean, there's so many good fitness programs out there, apps, whatever. I'm not saying that these are like the only good ones. There's so many great ones. They're just ones I've tried. For years, I have done the like Rosie times two. They're two cute sisters. Their workout program just outside of pregnancy and postpartum, which is I've loved. Thankfully, they have a great pregnancy and a great postpartum program that I did my first pregnancy and loved, highly recommend. And there are like four-ish, 4 to 5 sometimes, like strength-based workouts a week. Throughout the pregnancy program, they incorporate more things like mobility and some like prenatal yoga and things like that as well. So really love that. Highly recommend. I think following any sort of program,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what it is. I think for me, it's really helpful because it just kept me accountable versus
Yeah.
like showing up to the gym, especially when you're pregnant, and you're like, what am I doing?
Like decision fatigue, like take that
Yeah,
out.
yes, I would agree. If we can reduce any decision fatigue, especially when you're feeling fatigued in
Yeah.
every capacity, like make that a non-issue. So that was what I really enjoyed this time around, solely because my pregnancies were so close. I'm like, I need something to just make me feel like I'm doing something different this time.
Yeah.
I am following it's called the Moves app. Madeline Moves. That's her Instagram, and she's also a mom, just like the Rosie Times Two gals, and she has fantastic workout programs as well as a pregnancy program and postpartum. So just kind of mixing it up for
Yeah.
myself this time around. And I'm really enjoying that. It's again about 4 to 5-ish. Kind of you can kind of pick and choose however much you want to do. Like strength-based workouts, kind of there's, full body and upper body, lower body, whatever. And a lot of it just kind of conditioning mobility, pregnancy-focused exercises. And I've really loved that. And I'm excited this time around to do her postpartum program solely because she is like a 3-time C-section mom, and I had a
Mm.
C-section my first time. I'll likely have a C-section again this time, which I just like that she includes some like
Mm.
scar mobility. If anyone out there is like having a C-section or had, there's a lot of great post-surgery things that you can
Yeah.
do to improve just like the mobility of your scar and the look of it. And she includes a lot of that in there, which I like, and I really didn't do enough of it the first time around. So this time I'm like, okay, that's gonna be my postpartum focus is kind of incorporating more of that earlier on.
Hmm.
But so yeah, that's kind of what I've done throughout my 2 pregnancies, but both programs are amazing. I would recommend them both highly. And postpartum, of course, kind of the rule of thumb is like, kind of wait 6 weeks until your doctor gives you the okay to start working out and
Hmm.
whatever. But I think, now I think there are and I'm not a fitness professional per se, but this is just from my own experience.
Yeah.
I think, there are definitely things you can start doing prior to 6 weeks if you feel inclined. And
Hmm.
that does not mean like, hey, let's go for a run at 2 weeks postpartum. No way. That's not, but it's more like kind of core rehab and a lot of like
Hmm.
pelvic floor work and things like that, which both programs I have done and recommend both include you can start doing these things, kind of when you feel up to it, a couple weeks
Yeah.
postpartum. And it's not like they're not workouts. It's more like sitting and breathing in a very mindful way. And
Yeah.
they explain the different, like just like deep core breathing, 360 breathing. There's all of these kind of specific pelvic floor exercises you can do, which I did do first time around, and I think made such a difference in just
Yeah.
how, and thankfully not having personally any pelvic floor issues to date thus far.
Yeah.
I think that kind of stuff makes a huge difference and just easing it back into it, like really working on that core rehab before you dive into anything else,
Yeah.
and you're not really feeling up to doing much. You know what I mean? It's 6 weeks seems like a
Hmm.
long time, but I remember my first time around, I was like, heck no, I'm
Yeah.
not feeling, I'm not like wanting to go do jumping jacks, right after you have a
Yeah.
baby. But I do think walking is also something that has been huge for me throughout pregnancy and postpartum. Just, I mean, we live in a very sunny, beautiful place to walk, so it's very enticing. I understand
Yeah.
that's maybe not the case if you live in or you're having a baby in the middle of the winter in
Yeah.
New York. It's a little bit tougher. So like
Yeah.
I understand, but so I've been very spoiled in that way. But I do think it's also just been one of the best one forms of exercise, but also just good for my mental health,
Yeah.
especially postpartum. I think that really got me out of the house.
Yeah.
You need that more than ever. So that's really the only like quote unquote cardio. I got that question the other day from like a DM from someone like, what are you doing for cardio throughout pregnancy? I'm like, beyond walking. I'm like, that's it.
Yeah.
You don't really feel like doing much more. Um, but it's also just, it's a wonderful way to like get outside, which you really need, especially
Hmm.
postpartum. So I think that has been a habit that I really have like tried to keep consistent, even if just small walks. Like it doesn't have to be, I'm not walking a marathon, but just
Yeah.
getting outside and making that kind of like a daily priority has been very helpful and kind of like a big staple throughout pregnancy and postpartum for sure.
Yeah, and like such a fun and easy activity you can do with the whole family as well, or you can do with
Totally.
your little kid, whether they're in a stroller, they're like toddling around and like building great habits for them
Yep.
too.
Exactly. It's and now we're to your point, we're kind of getting or we are very much in the phase with our 14-month-old of like, we need to get out of the house. So
Yeah.
like I want to walk because it's good for me, it makes me feel good. But like he needs to go see some scenery. Like there because
Yeah.
we do get out of the house quite a bit, but like we're getting to the phase where I'm like, okay, we're getting stir crazy inside. Like there's
Yeah.
only so many ga- we- games we can play before I'm like, we just gotta go have an outing. So
Yeah.
it's definitely encouraged us to like be better about walking because it's just like it's a good little afternoon break from all the other things. And
Yeah.
yeah, it is definitely a good family activity, which I love.
Yeah, that's great. This is a very personal question, so I can cut it out if you don't want to answer.
Sure.
But but did you ever feel pressure like in the role that you're in as a nutritionist, being very like online presence with,
Mhm.
people are looking to you for health and wellness and inspiration and things like pressure to, you hear people saying like bounce back and like there is no such thing, but like to feel like, quote, like your old self again.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, you know, especially for the first time around, I really try to go into both pregnancy and postpartum being like, I have no idea what my
Yeah.
body's gonna look like, what I'm gonna feel like. Like, you just really don't know. And I think I really tried to make a very conscious effort to kind of just let go. And I think pregnancy, especially, I think can be an extremely kind of healing
Mm.
experience. No, and I, feel like from someone who had a past like in college of, some totally disordered eating habits and hyperfixating on my body in a very negative way, which I've done so much work. And now I work with people to help them,
Hmm.
in a lot of ways prioritize their health in a much more holistic way, in a much healthier, more balanced way. I think one, doing a lot of that work prior years before even getting pregnant, it
Hmm.
allowed me, I think, to go into pregnancy with a much healthier outlook. But even
Hmm.
then, I think if you allow pregnancy to be this experience where you're like, it is what it is. My body's,
Yeah.
like it just being really open-minded. And I don't want to, it sounds terrible to use the word like disassociate, but it does you kind of do detach a little bit from your
Hmm.
body. And in some ways, it's like the most in tune with your body you've ever been. But in some ways, it's like when I say detached, I mean sort of like it is what it is. I'm pregnant. Like, like I don't
Yeah.
know, things are gonna look different. And it kind of letting when I'm saying kind of detaching from the attachment to your body looking a certain way, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
I actually really felt like pregnancy was a very positive experience for me. I was like, it's kind of cool to like just let it be. You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
number on the scale or whatever it is, like it's none of my business. I don't care. Like it just whatevs. Like we'll see. And I've never been pregnant before. I
Yeah.
don't know how much weight I'm going to gain. I don't know what things are going to look like. And I think I really tried to go in with it as healthy and kind of like balanced mindset as I could. Um, and I think that allowed me to think to navigate pregnancy with a less I don't know, just yeah, get attachment to any of it
Yeah.
being a certain type of way, which postpartum, I think, was a very similar experience. I'm like, my body may never look any semblance of the same that it did before. And you have to kind of let that go.
Yeah.
And but I think it also allowed me to, to then kind of be like, oh wow, okay, I feel pretty strong again. And like and be kind of
Hmm.
excited when you feel like you're gaining some of your, I don't want to say old self, but like you some of that strength back and like wearing your old clothes again that you haven't worn for months and months. You're like, okay, this is kind of nice. Like I think it was more pleasantly surprised
Mm.
when I was able to feel good in my skin again. Not the same because it's
Hmm.
different. You're in a different body to a certain extent. It's never going to look quote unquote the same, but like that was never
Hmm.
my expectation. So I
Yeah.
think it was more of setting realistic expectations of like, let's kind of see how this goes. I may look like a totally different body, but actually like I think I hopefully could speak for a lot of people that have gone through postpartum that when you do prioritize your health and your wellness throughout your pregnancy and you get back to, into doing healthy, balanced things postpartum, and you begin to feel good in your skin again. One, you're really proud of yourself because you're like, look at me go.
Yeah.
I am able to do this, um, but also being kind of proud of like this new body that I'm in. It sounds so corny to say, but I don't envy or like wish to be in the same body that I was in before. Like
Hmm.
it really is such a growing experience. Like
Yeah.
pregnancy and postpartum is, and it's so corny to say, but like once you've gone through it, you're like, it is a growth experience in all capacities, like physically, mentally, like you kind of mature a lot through the process. And
Yeah.
but again, I think you have to kind of make a conscious decision to make your body not the hyperfixation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and again, but I think when you are prioritizing healthy habits and things like that in a balanced way, you will get back to feeling good. Like those things
Yeah.
really help you. And I do firmly believe that trying to be as, mindful of nutrition as I possibly could be throughout pregnancies and fitness too, just walking and like strength training and whatnot, I absolutely think helped me get back to feeling good at postpartum. It's to
Hmm.
your point, not necessarily like the whole like bounce back culture. You're like, well, bounce back to
Yeah.
what? You're not ever going to be the same. You have
Yeah.
a baby now. Like your whole life is different. Like the body being the same is one, never going to happen. Two, why would you want it to happen? Because
Yeah.
that means you're going back to your pre-baby life, which you don't want that per se. So it's more about like kind of having your like little postpartum glow up, like you're prioritizing the right things and you're feeling good and that you're feeling more confident, not just in your body, but like in your ability as a mom and like in your new role
Hmm.
and things like that. So I feel like it's wanting to like move forward in a positive way versus like bouncing back to your old self, which like is just not ever going to happen. And like, again, not something you really want to happen. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love that like perspective shift of like, it doesn't
totally.
have to be the same. It can be like better in a different way,
Yes.
like, and yeah, you just freaking grew a human, which is
Probably not going to look the same.
insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So right, which is kind of amazing. I think once you've gone through pregnancy and like birth and all those things, you're kind of like, you also do feel sort of set like a superwoman. You're like,
Yeah.
that alone is amazing. Go me that like the hyperfixation on like fitting in a certain jean size becomes very much low on the totem pole of
Yeah.
priorities. Like
Perspective shift.
it really does shift your perspective. And you're like, that is just, I think when prior to that, it's easy to allow our physical like body and the hyperfixation, all those things to be such a bigger presence in our life.
Hmm.
And that's, I think, one of the best things about motherhood is whether it's that or just even like little things in your life or like other things that we end up getting hung up on, but not just as like body
Hmm.
image wise, but like it just puts a lot of things in perspective and you just don't have the bandwidth to like a lot of things life that you used to. And I kind of love
Yeah.
that. Like you have a lot of other things you're worried about. And this little person is more important than like you, which is kind of the whole idea. Like it's like you're
Yeah.
prioritizing something that's bigger than yourself. And so I think that's why I think the whole journey is so good in so
Hmm.
many ways. Because you're like, oh wow, it's not about me anymore. But like that's kind of great, like in a good
Yeah.
way. The balance of still wanting to take care of yourself. I'm not saying like don't ever prioritize yourself, but it puts a lot of things to your point in perspective of like what's really worth worrying about and like what's just you realize how we spend a lot of time hyperfixating on stuff that just doesn't matter.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I love that. And I think that's going to help a lot of people who maybe are like feeling like in that spiral, whether they're like in it or they're like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know if I can have a kid because
Yeah.
like I don't know, maybe they had like a passive disordered eating or something. I don't know how I'm going to take it." So,
Yeah. I think it can be very healing in so many ways.
yes. Okay, well then let's get back to mealtime now. Now that now that
Yes.
you have a little toddler running around and you are still running a business, I'm sure a lot of people can relate, even if they're not an entrepreneur. They might be working full time and they have a
Mhm.
family, and how are you prioritizing like making sure you're still making nourishing, healthy meals at home, but not spending hours and hours and hours on it?
Totally. Yeah, it's definitely become more of a challenge. Like I said, just you just have a lot less time to cook, which is kind of a bummer because I really do enjoy, I really
Yeah.
love cooking.
Yeah.
But again, like we said, all these things are phases, and there will be
Mm.
times in my life when I have as much time as I want to make a fun, complicated dinner, you know?
Yeah.
But this is not that phase. And right now it's more about like ease and speed of which I can get things on the table and nutrition while still making it hopefully nourishing for the whole family.
Hmm.
Um, I think some things that have helped me not to make it like dumb simple, but like kind of bringing it back to the basics, like having basic things around that I for like more for maybe lunches and things like that and
Hmm.
breakfast than anything. Because like if I have like for example lunch today, as I'm like throwing something together, it's like okay, if I have some hard-boiled eggs and I have some like turkey and I've got things like that, I can throw together a pretty nutritious lunch. Is it like beautiful and aesthetic? No, but like it's a lot of snack plate situations. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, which is I don't really care. That's totally fine,
Yeah.
and it gets the job done, and it can be really nutritious.
Uh-huh.
I think for, dinner is really when we obviously eat together, like as a family, Sam's
Hmm.
not here during the day. So yeah, lunches are more like just having easy staples around
Hmm.
kind of thing. Dinners, I think what I have to do to get anything on the table is like I just have to plan semi in advance, whether it's like on Sunday or even just like, okay, we're here for the next three days, and then we're out for dinner on Thursday or whatever it is.
Yeah.
What am I going to make every night? Like making sure I just have a plan because if you just
Hmm.
leave it willy-nilly, all of a sudden you know, it's dinner time and you've got your toddler you have to feed, and then you're like, well, I have nothing
Yeah.
prepared or like even in mind that we're going to eat. And so
Yeah.
I think it does require a little bit of like just planning ahead of time, making sure I get the right groceries and kind of going from
Yeah.
there. And we're now with Clark, we're kind of getting into the stage of like, I mean, he's eating 3 meals a day and whatnot. And a lot of sometimes those are more baby centric meals, but a lot of times it's like it's kind of some version of what we're cooking. So
Hmm.
having to sort of plan ahead in that regard of like, okay, what am I making for dinner and how could he have some of that? So it does require a bit more bandwidth of just planning that way. But like I said, I think having some like kind of backup staples ready to rock and roll
Yeah.
in our freezer or just whatnot during like, all my grocery hauls. I'm like, I'm just gonna get these random things because I know they'll come in handy at some point. Like just proteins, lots of fruits and berries and things like that that
Yeah.
all three of us will consume. Eggs, things. It sounds so simple, but like having those basics around is important. Otherwise, you end up it's just like either takeout or it's like pantry. It's like snacks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
definitely becoming a bit more of a challenge, but I think I'm also learning to how to make meals that like both a toddler will eat, but like are still nutritious for us
Yeah.
because all of us need to be having something relatively nutritious. So that's been
Yeah.
kind of a fun new challenge. But definitely finding meals I can just cook in a short amount of time because it's you're throwing something together and then it's bath time, it's bedtime, and you're like the evenings just get kind of wacky. So it
Yeah.
certainly does make you have to kind of put things together. But I think for me, it's again, it really encouraged me to come back to the basics. It doesn't have to be this overcomplicated, crazy meal. And
Yeah.
there will be times again to make fun, more elaborate things, but not right now.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Well, I love that a lot of the things that you're cooking for your toddler are like a version of what you're having you and your husband
Yeah.
are as well, because that's like probably really introducing a lot of different foods for him as well.
Yeah. And that's what I'm hoping for sure.
Yeah.
And look, there's still some nights when he's gonna have mac and cheese and, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it just seems exhausting to have to cook 2 meals for kids and
Gosh.
then parents. And I think that's one of the biggest tips people, like toddler specialists or, who I'm
Yeah.
not, but, people that are really, or like, dietitians for kids and things like that are like, give them what you're eating because, having two totally separate meals is one, exhausting, but two,
Yeah.
it's a really good way to introduce them to foods. Like this is what we're having as a family.
Yeah.
Take it or leave
Yeah.
it.
What was it like introducing foods to him for the first time? And like, what did he like to eat?
Yeah, it honestly so fun. I mean, we
Yeah.
have been lucky that he has been a very good eater pretty much from the beginning. I mean, now we're getting more into the toddler stage where
Mm.
it becomes a little bit dicier. It's funny, like when they're little and they're just introducing foods, they'll kind of eat anything. Like
Yeah.
it's because there's not really preferences as much.
Yeah.
I mean, a little bit, but not nearly as much. And then because the older they get, the more they're really finding their personality and they're
Yeah.
become a little more like they're pushing the boundary. So there's some things that are harder now than they used to be, but in the beginning, now there's such a big, I feel like conversation being, are people starting with purees? Are they doing the baby-led
Mm.
weaning? And like it's kind of like you said earlier, I feel like it's very overcomplicated. And
Yeah.
it's like, I'm like, it's kind of, even as someone in the nutrition space, I was
Yeah.
just like, uh, what does that even mean? And like, what are we doing the wrong thing if we're not like baby-led weaning? Like, what are we doing? Which is kind of just, anyway, it's just as complicated as adult nutrition, sadly, or people make it that way and it doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
Whereas, we kind of give them a little bit of everything. You know what I mean? I'm like, we did
Yeah.
some fruit and veggie purees. We did just some like softer versions of like quote real food,
Yeah.
like it's yogurts and it's cottage cheese and it's mashed up berries or bananas or whatever it
Yeah.
is, in addition to making some of my own fruit and veggie purees and whatnot. And he just kind of loved all food, so it was just fun to like give him different stuff and kind of see how it went.
Hmm.
um and again, as someone who like loves to cook and is obviously very much loves nutrition, it was fun to get to like start that new chapter with him.
Yeah.
So yeah, we started solids like as soon as we got the green light, and he was interested pretty early on. So that was
Yeah.
a fun chapter for sure.
Yeah. A little activity too.
Yeah, well, totally. And you just feel like it is kind of like a whole new step. And even now, it's fun to like see them get so excited about food.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very messy, which is a struggle, but fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then, kind of last category for you here that I'm sure people are asking you all the time is your favorite products, whether they're products for you, products for baby, home products
Oh my
that are
gosh.
like the healthier version or cleaner version. Like, what do you love?
Oh my gosh. Where do I begin?
Yeah, I know. I know.
So
That's such a
many.
broad question.
Oh my gosh. But so many good things. I mean, I think kind of starting with home, like you said, I think, that is definitely, well, one, swapping to just cleaner, less toxic version of like, well, but whether it's the skincare products, home cleaning products, all that kind of stuff, I think is something that I would very much encourage anyone who is starting to think about it, like a conception journey, things like that. I think that's a really important place to start, is just limiting your quote toxic load with the kind
Hmm.
of things you're using on your skin, in your house. So I mean, there's a lot of brands that I love from like a home perspective for that kind of stuff. I mean, from like for for example, for cleaning products, like the Branch Basics, which I know is a popular
Hmm.
one, which is now way more accessible to like Target, which is great. Like I use a brand called Aspen Clean, like their laundry detergent,
Hmm.
Puracy, Attitude. There's so many great non-toxic brands now, just for like home care products and things like that. Same thing you could say for like skincare and makeup. And oh my God, there's so many, so many categories we could get into.
Yeah.
I guess one that I'll kind of highlight because of many, and I have a lot of these linked on like my page and
Oh,
whatnot too,
yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
broken down what I've used. But from like skincare, I like Primally Pure is a brand that I've used for years, and it's another really great like non-toxic brand as well. And so making those little swaps, I think was a really effective way to kind of get started from like a home personal care
Hmm.
perspective. Um, Baby wise, oh my gosh, the baby world is filled with so much stuff.
I'm
Like
like so overwhelmed. Anytime
it's
I'm looking at
it's
my
insane.
friends' baby registries, I'm like, how did they even know they needed this stuff?
Yeah.
Like,
I
it
don't,
blows
I
my
still
mind.
feel the same way. And especially before your first baby. Yeah, when I was saying earlier, like I researched all the things, like that's another part. You're like, what do I need?
Yeah.
And you do end up spending money on a bunch of junk, probably, or hopefully not, but like there are always things you buy. You're like, why did I think I was going to use that? Like
Yeah.
you just don't know. You get influenced by a friend's registry or whatever, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I really didn't need it. Um, but then there's a lot of things that are really helpful to have for babies. And so they do require a good amount of stuff. So it's a balance of those two things. I was just thinking, I'm like, I need to make a little video for my page of like things we didn't use or things we did use. But I think more than anything, you need a lot less than you think. I think it's maybe like every single bottle washer, every single gadget and gizmo, like you just don't need it all. And
Mm,
I think it's easy to accumulate so much junk that like is just kind of unnecessary.
hmm.
Um, so some of that you kind of learn through experience to a certain extent. And I feel like there's a lot of now that going into this the second time that I'm like, I will not be using that. You know what I mean? We bought
Yeah.
all this stuff and so you do make some mistakes and you kind of just don't know your first time around. But I'm trying to think of what other so baby product wise, oh my gosh.
Mhm.
I mean, Primal Leap, you're actually making some great baby products as well. There's so many good, like less toxic baby brands, which I also
Yeah.
have shared a ton of those on my page too, which I think is also important. I think, you think about like what you're putting on your little baby's skin and whatnot, you become a bit more
Yeah.
mindful of like, okay, what's in all this junk? So I definitely have linked a bunch of different products and things like that there because there's just a lot that they end up needing that you you
Yeah.
don't necessarily think. And then again, there's also things that people will say, you need the same, like, no, not really. So
Yeah.
hopefully I've shared some helpful things like on my page too, of some of my favorite products. But at the end of the day, it's a little bit of trial and error with your first baby for a while. Then you're like, okay, now we kind of found our favorite brands, and every baby's different. Like sometimes, one diaper cream works for one baby and the other like doesn't work for the next or whatever. And you could say the same thing for a lot of like the gadgets and gizmos. Like sometimes it works
Hmm.
for one baby's situation and doesn't for the other. So I think using a critical eye with like whenever someone says you need a product, like, do I,
Yeah. Yeah.
what's really helpful? Like, we'll figure it out. But
Right.
uh,
Well, and that
hopefully,
that makes sense because like every adult is different as well. Like maybe a deodorant
for
that I love would
sure.
like break you out or something.
Yes,
So,
exactly. Yeah. So it's so hard to say like what the best of the best are. I'm like, there's a lot of really great options out there, but there's also a little bit of kind of trial and error with your own baby too.
yeah.
So there's just so much stuff. It's mind blowing for babies. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh my
Ugh.
gosh." I would be so overwhelmed right now. I just am overwhelmed picking one like a thing off of your list. So,
Totally. The funny thing is, I remember when I was building my registry, there's the snoo and the uppa baby and the duna and the blah, 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 like all these funny names. It's the Nuna and the Duna and the blah blah blah. And I'm like, I was like, what are all these things? And then like funny enough, you're on the other side of it and you're like, you could tell what every single like as a mom, like, once
yeah.
you've gotten into it and you actually know what these products are, you're like, I know exactly what this is, which is so funny because it's like a foreign language. And I felt the
Yeah.
same way. I'm like, what the hell is a Duna and a Nuna and a snoo and a snuggle snoo and a snoo and like they're all like it's hysterical. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my God. But then you somehow learn that language,
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Okay, well, I know we are approaching the hour, so I want to just leave with some parting advice, words of encouragement. If there's someone either in the midst of pregnancy or new motherhood and they're going through it, they're in the thick of it, and they need a little encouragement, what would you
Oh my
say?
gosh. I mean, there's so many things you learn throughout, I guess, the whole journey. But I think the biggest thing, and it sounds so cliche, we kind of talked about this earlier, but it's just that everything is a phase. And I think, when you're especially, well, going through pregnancy, but I think from, especially going through like the newborn phase and or any phase with a baby, an infant, like you think these things last forever and like, oh my gosh, why are they doing XYZ now? Or we're struggling with this. And, when you're in it, it feels like catastrophic. And I think the further along you get, not that I'm some sort of expert, but I'm 14 months along further than I was, further along than I was before.
Yeah.
You really do realize like everything really is a phase. And typically things don't last more than a few days or maybe a week or whatever. And then they're on to the next thing. And I think we put so much pressure on ourselves as moms to like do everything perfectly and follow the schedule perfectly. And what's wrong with them? Or, like what? So it's, I think, taking a breath and being like, they're a baby. They're going
Yeah.
to be okay. And actually, my husband says this all the time. And it's maybe like our motto of parenthood is like, when your babies, they're fussy or they're this or not following the schedule, or you think that it's like this, the end of the world, they're not, doing whatever you wanted them to do. Sam's always like, he's a baby, not a robot. Like he's a human. So
Yeah.
we don't have the same level of hunger and sleep and whatnot every single day. Like, do your best to, you know, help them get on a good schedule and do all the things, but like they're still humans and they're not robots. And I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to like conform them to this perfect schedule and to do, to eat a certain amount and to sleep a certain amount and whatever. And I think, kind of now going into another baby, I'm like, I think I, God willing, will remind myself of this when things are not going to my perfect schedule or plan, that like it's gonna be okay. They're not gonna they'll get through the day, and they'll be on to the next phase next week and it's okay. So I think we take every little thing so seriously the first time around because you don't know what you're doing and
Yeah.
you're a first time mom, so some of that is just part of the learning journey. But I think just reminding ourselves that like they're babies and they're human as well, and they're not robots, and it's going to be okay. Like everything is temporary, and like they're going to live. You'll get through the other side of it, and whether or not you used the diaper cream that the influencer told you to use, or like they followed the perfect mom's on call schedule or whatever, like they're going to be okay. As long as
Yes.
you're doing your best. So
Yes.
I think, yeah, you just have a little bit more perspective as time goes on.
Yeah. Take a breath. It's all going to be okay.
And that's also my run to myself.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Ugh.
Well, Georgia, for everyone listening who wants to follow along and, keep up to date with baby number 2, get some healthy recipe ideas, go find your list of products, where can they follow along?
Instagram is good as G, website's good as g.com/blog. And I, again, to your point, yeah, I share a lot of products and things like that on there. And also like things like to know it and shop my, all that good stuff for like baby product things. If anyone wants any recs, if they're feeling lost. Yeah, good as the G everywhere is where you can find me.
Perfect. Well, Georgia, thank
Thank
you
you.
so much for joining again. It was so fun chatting and catching up.
Thank you so much for having me back.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Health by Haven podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to give the show a 5-star rating and leave a review. It makes such a huge difference in reaching new people and spreading the joy of healthy living. I would also be so appreciative if you subscribe to the show in the listening app of your choice so you never miss an episode. Your support truly means the world to me. Have a happy, healthy day, and I'll talk to you again soon.